Netflix isn't just in the movie and TV and streaming business, they're now in the comic book business as well. What's up, everybody? I'm Josh Meek, the Uber Geek. This is Pretty Dece, your daily entertainment and pop culture show. And Mark Millar is the comic book author known for titles such as Wanted, Kick-Ass, Kingsman, several different titles that have gone on to become very successful film franchises. And with that in mind, it made a lot of sense when, in 2017, Netflix picked up Millar World, Mark Millar's publishing house, and kind of brought them under the Netflix umbrella. What's interesting, however, is Netflix's approach to ownership of Millar World. They're still having the company produce new original comic book properties, and the first of those actually came out in June. The first issue came out in June. That was The Magic Order, and it's a team of magicians that are sworn to protect our world. So think Avengers, but more kind of real-world magicians. And the newest comic book coming from Millar World, and by extension Netflix, is called Prodigy. Prodigy focuses on a character named Edison Crane, who is the world's smartest man, according to these solicitations. He is a Nobel Prize-winning scientist, he's a genius composer, he's an Olympic-level athlete, and an expert in the occult as well. And he needs constant challenge, so that's kind of his driving force, is constantly being challenged. We don't know what else that Crane's gonna get up to in Prodigy, but he looks kind of like a menacing character, at least on the cover of the first issue that we've seen so far. Millar says that Crane is by far the best character he's ever written, which is pretty high praise because he's written some really good books. And he set out to write what was supposed to be like the smartest story he'd ever written, while also trying to top some of his largest kind of action set pieces. So kind of really lofty goals as he set out to start writing Prodigy. And, you know, in general, I do kind of find the just sort of bare descriptions of Millar's comics a bit weird, kind of if you just read what the comic book is about. But in practice, reading the actual book, I think they're pretty great. I think in general, he's a fantastic author, and typically he can make things that should be kind of lame actually pretty cool. So usually his books are things to look out for, and Prodigy certainly, I'm sure, is going to be no exception to that. Moreover, I'm very impressed with Netflix's approach to these Millar World comics, now that we've gotten to see them put out a couple of these. It would have been easy for them to just buy the company and force them to start churning out comic book adaptions of Netflix properties, but instead they're taking the long-term approach. They're essentially planting a tree, letting Millar and his team develop these kind of winning properties, and they can come back later and kind of harvest the fruit, so to speak. They can make original TV and original films based on these properties kind of down the road after, you know, the creative minds flesh out what exactly Prodigy is. They can circle back around then and create the film, create the TV show based on it. And it also comes, conveniently then, with a little bit of an audience built in. People who read the comics, people who are avid fans, are instantly going to be ready to see the, TV or movie version of it. It's really smart, and even if they end up never making a series on Prodigy, they still get the albeit smaller profit from the comic book release as it came out. So I think it's a really smart thing for Netflix to be doing, to expand out, to start spreading some of those seeds, to generate content, more and more content as it's going to show up on their platform. And this is an extremely fortuitous time for Netflix to be generating new comic book-based properties, as we are getting kind of ever close to that deadline of Marvel movies suddenly disappearing from the streaming service. So with Marvel going away, and with those contracts kind of always being in flux, it makes a ton of sense for Netflix to be developing these comic properties in-house, so they never have to worry about those pesky contracts ever again. So Prodigy #1, we've got a ways to wait. The issue 1 comes out December 5th, and it's coming from Image Comics, and that'll of course be in paper and digital. So that's going to do it for Pretty Dece for today. Thank you very much for joining me to talk about Prodigy, which is the comic book that is the latest step in Netflix global media domination. Remember that you can support Pretty Dece via Anchor with a small monthly subscription. Any level of support earns a shout out right here on the show, and the $4.99 and $9.99 tiers get you even more cool stuff like stickers or even your very own Pretty Dece patch. You can visit prettydeceshow.com/listener support for all of the details, or you can head straight to anchor.fm/prettydece to sign up. And of course, remember that new episodes of Pretty Dece premiere weekdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/prettydeceshow. And of course, at the same time, you can check out the new episodes on the podcast feed or the YouTube channel. You can find that at prettydeceshow.com/video. And of course, catch me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Pretty Dece Show.